I would like to welcome everyone, all the panelists and all the attendees that we have here today. And myself, Neha Bhardwaj, and I will be moderating the section. So just to kind of keep everyone aware, I myself come from a decade-long experience of working in digital technologies. And I am someone who is really a firm believer and very much, passionate about digital technology and how it can really change the healthcare ecosystem. So currently we are conducting this webinar, which is part of Voice of Healthcare, which is primarily a platform where we bring in, all the stakeholders of healthcare to give them a voice, give them a space where they can really go out and talk about their opinions, talk about what they feel about the recent changes. And similarly, this webinar is part of the COVID response that we're trying to build at Voice of Healthcare. So today, as we all are very much aware of how the COVID-19 has really changed the dynamics of the world. Now we are living in a different kind of atmosphere altogether. The dynamics of all the industries have changed, and specifically healthcare. So today we all are here to, kind of discuss about what exactly is the role that digital healthcare has to play during the COVID crisis as we see it happening, and what would be the role of digital healthcare as this COVID crisis gets over. So I think to begin with, we have some really interesting panelists today. Dr. Venkat, who comes from pure hospital healthcare kind of a background. Sanjay, where on the other end comes with devices, and he understands about medical devices and whatnot, And similarly, Mukesh, who is also a co-founder of an AI-based chatbot, Gravitas Consultants, and also he works primarily in terms of innovative tech, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So I think I won't be able to do any justice to your introduction. So I would start with Sanjay, if you can just briefly introduce yourself to the attendees that we have today. You need to, Sanjay, you're on mute. You need to unmute.
Thank you, Neha. So, well, thanks a lot for having me here. And thanks a lot for Voice of Healthcare team. The team had been doing amazing webinars. So, Dr. Naveen and everyone, really good job on this. My quick background is I'm a graduate from IIT Kharagpur. Worked in medical industry for almost 20 years now. Initially worked in R&D with GE Healthcare in US. And then did my MBA from INSEAD in France, came back to India, worked with Johnson & Johnson Medical on the sales and marketing side. And then the corporate life didn't really work with me. So that's when we started this startup, Collateral Medical, trying to solve the digital health in distribution space. So we had been there for the last 9 years now, pretty well set in this space, I would say. So thank you. Looking forward to have a wonderful discussion with all you guys.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sanjay. That was a very quick, brief, and very crisp introduction. Now I'll go to Dr. Venkat. If you want to take a lead, or Mukesh, whoever wants to take a chance and introduce yourself to the attendees that we have here today.
Mukesh.
Yes, I can go. Yeah.
All right.
So.
Okay.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, VOH, for inviting for this wonderful webinar. I think speakers are great. Moderator is quite nice. And of course, I'm sure we will have a good participant also. Coming back to me and introduction. So I am a co-founder of Gravitas Consultant Limited. It is a London-based AI company. AI is a quite a large platform, but we are working on conversational AI part. So which is popularly known as like a virtual assistant or digital assistant. Are you talking about a smart chatbot? We are in that business. Before that, I was purely on the corporate segment. Last assignment with Japanese company as a managing director for India and Southeast Asia. Apart from that, I have worked with American companies also like Abbott, Allergan. And of course, I started my journey in healthcare with Dr. Reddy's Laboratory. So this is just brief information about me. I think during the talk, we can discuss about some of the product we have developed for COVID-19. So like we have a COVID-19 assistant product about information and other things, and we have a wearable device also. So I think during the discussion, we can discuss on more detail.
Sure.
Over to
Definitely,
you.
that will be interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Venkat. Maybe if you can just now give
Yeah.
a brief introduction about yourself. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Neha, for inviting me to this very interesting topic, along with my learned colleagues. Extremely humbled to be on the platform. Also, thanks for Voice of Healthcare. I visited Voice of Healthcare in March in Mumbai, but never thought since then I would not come out of the home much. So things have changed rapidly in the couple of months that we have all witnessed. So coming to my background, I am first of all a clinician. I'm a graduate of Osmania from Hyderabad. Then I went to the UK and I practiced in UK for 17 years. I did my qualifications in clinical radiology. I'm a radiologist, so I do a lot of online reporting. And even pre-COVID, since the last 15 years, I've been using digital platforms for day-to-day, every bread and butter activity for my clinical stuff. More recently, since 3-4 years, I came back to India and started my own hospital. But I still visit the UK. I'm still a consultant. I'm a consultant in UK, Ireland, and India, of course. So even being within India, I still do a lot of work for the European market. I do day-to-day reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Since the last couple of months, I did about more than 1,000 scans of confirmed COVID cases. And amazingly, it is all done from India itself. So they send me all the scans and images. So, you know, when somebody was saying digital healthcare, then this is a classic example.
Yeah.
The world is actually quite small for me because, you know, every day the interaction between UK, Ireland, Australia, and India happens to me. And of course, locally also, I do quite a bit of practice. I've got my own hospital, and there are a few consultants from other backgrounds also coming in. And more recently, I'm also MBA from ISB in Advanced Healthcare Management. So just to expand my horizon into further business.
Okay. All right.
I also do because the learned panelist members are also into AI. Radiology and AI have been connected since quite a long time, almost a decade.
Right.
And there has been rapid progress. And if there's one field which AI can really establish and change the whole system is in radiology. So I'm actually working with quite a few junior radiologists within India and also some companies as well. So thank you for
Dr. Thank you so much, Dr. Venkat. I think you have touched upon and you have really set the stage for this conversation today. So maybe let's begin with you because you have an active experience working in the UK plus in India, running a hospital, running Excel Healthcare, right? So what do you really think has changed? You know, when we talk about in terms of January, when we were like really managing you know, the day-to-day OPD of a hospital, really taking care of the patients that were very common. Now, how exactly, when you talk about digital healthcare in specific, what was then in January and what is it now if you want to compare it, like as of now in May, if you talk about how exactly have you evolved or your facility has evolved or your thinking has evolved in terms of digital healthcare? So maybe if you can just share.
Sure. So as a clinician, I felt significant changes, some positive, some negative as well, which I want to elaborate. So specifically regarding my field, which is radiology, it has been a significantly positive impact because radiology, as I said, has made the world come together. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Venkat.
So, and as I said, the scans can be sent anywhere in the world, can be reported within minutes from anywhere in the world. And I speak to my colleagues in the UK, Ireland, Australia very often. If there's any urgent emergency, I often get them across and then they see the patient and take them to the theater. So it's literally some lives that we are saving through a totally digital platform. And I'm glad that I will be able to do this from India because my family is here. I'm still working for anywhere in the world. So this has been a significant move. But saying that radiology has been advanced in these aspects since a long time. COVID has made advancement even better accepted in many institutions. For example, many people used to go to the hospital every day morning, 9 o'clock, park their car, put the petrol on, parking. They used to have this as a daily engagement. But now with COVID, they're having their own reporting workstations within their homes. The home reporting is really accepted, not only from the provider point of view, but also from the acceptance point of view.
That's
interesting. Other fields, which is clinical part, which are general medicine, general surgery, I think those have been negatively impacted in the sense that, first of all, with COVID, not many patients are having any much of a disease because either they will not be tolerant to that kind of symptoms and be at home and wait till they really feel well to go to the hospital. Secondly, some of the patients I noticed are not very tech savvy, especially in India. Even though they have mobile phones, not many people are, aware of switching on their app, face calling, and all these things. And India is a population which is 50% poor population. So the acceptance rate for telemedicine, although is up from pre-COVID stage to now, but still there's a long way to catch up. So negative at the moment, but I think at the same time, it's a very positive outlook because patients are beginning to accept that there is something like telemedicine. Even in rural communities, poor patients, even a chaiwala, he can buy a smartphone, ask the doctor which app can be loaded, and then he can do teleconsulting in the future. So in the terms of future, the COVID silver lining is that it has opened up various possibilities. And from now on, it is our responsibility as healthcare leaders to take this further across the board.
Interesting. Thank you, Dr. Venkat. I think you have really given your closing comments as well for the webinar. Thank you so much. And on this, I think, Sanjay, if you could, shed some light, even, a lot of this would be an impact on the device industry as well, because there is suddenly an upsurge of, medical devices. There's suddenly been an upsurge of how to really innovate, because we have to think about frugal innovation. We have to talk about like lower cost and, higher runway for all these devices, and how we can really, fix this broken supply chain and kind of give the turnaround really quickly. So Sanjay, if you could shed some light on how do you think has impacted the device industry when we talk about way back in January when this COVID crisis actually hit the world, and now, and what are your thoughts around it?
Thank you, Neha. That's a pretty descriptive question. Let me try to answer that. So I think that in the last 3 months, the world has changed. And when it especially comes to medical devices, okay, it has changed for everybody, but for medical devices, and especially India, okay, it's a very bad thing to say for me, but I would say it's a boon for Indian medical devices, okay. We were so reliant on export, okay. Our 75% of goods we used to sell in India, everything used to be, import. Everything used to be imported, right? Import from US, import from Germany, UK, China, Japan, everywhere. Now the supply chain disruption, okay, completed it, right? We had in the initial phase of, so we started getting lots of calls even for export purposes from January itself, when it started picking up in China. And that time China was the buyer, okay. It somehow miraculously pulled out, got themselves out of the COVID, and now they have become the biggest seller. Okay, but if I look at the price, okay, for only limited just 10 to 20 set of products, right? It's the way it's going up and down. It has become a stock market. Okay, earlier if somebody used to call me and ask me, Sanjay, what's the price of this? I could tell him the price because we kind of knew the current trend. Okay, now I'll say that, hey, yesterday it was 100 rupees, today it might be 120, tomorrow it might be 70.
Yeah.
So it has become extremely different. Okay. Second thing which we have noticed is earlier what we used to sell. So we sell around 10,000 SKUs of products. Okay. Pre-COVID time, we used to work with, and we work with all the large multinationals. We are their official distributor, and we are inventory based e-commerce model. Right. So we keep our own inventory so that our customers get things much faster. One of the major criteria for us for sourcing was the quality of the product. Okay. We used to work with Johnson, J&Js. We also used to import some of the Chinese products, but they were FDA approved Chinese products. Okay. If I'm buying 100 rupees of product, say in January, pretty much 90 used to come from very reputed companies. Okay. And 10 from different local manufacturers or different traders. Right now, it's exactly opposite. Okay. We are sourcing almost 90 from non-reputed companies, okay, 10 from reputed companies. The reason for that is, so if you look at the COVID range of products, things like hand rub, masks, PPE, right? You have manufacturer in every corner.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
A friend of mine was joking with me saying that when we used to look at real estate earlier, your neighbor used to be a real estate broker. Okay, now your neighbor is a mask manufacturer or mask trader, right? So, so the complete non-medical people, okay, because this is the only option they have. They have nothing else right now, right?
Yeah, right.
So complete range of non-medical, including my very close friends, so quite a few of them, are into this, right?
Okay.
Now the challenge they have is how do we assess the quality? Okay, and in India, since we didn't have domestic manufacturing to a large extent, we did have quite a few very good manufacturers. Okay,
Okay.
we still are very small in terms of when it comes to domestic manufacturing. The right systems are not in place. Okay, government is still trying to set up some laboratories for testing purposes, but even do not have the right experiences, right?
Correct.
So there's a major challenge in the quality of products. Okay.
Okay.
Are suffering. Okay. The price, nobody knows what's the right price. And if a person like me who is completely involved in this is telling you what the price, like I don't know price, then it's a very big problem for the country. Right?
Yeah, right.
So we have seen that happening. So that's on the other challenges. But on the upside, suddenly we realize that healthcare is one of the most important thing.
Yeah, right.
Right. The doctors, the nurses, the healthcare facility, okay, anything, medical device distribution, medical device manufacturing, R&D, it's the very basic need of human being. If it work, the world stops.
Correct. Agreed.
Right? And so suddenly that huge realization has happened. So I could see that there will be huge investment coming in healthcare in India. Okay, our domestic manufacturing is going to slowly go up significantly. Okay, coming to the digital side of it. So we do both online and offline sales. Okay, I was talking to a friend of mine who runs PayU in India. One thing is, he brought out one very important aspect. What he said was that one of the things, if you look at e-commerce, almost 70% transaction, it for Flipkarts and Amazons and 1MGs, it used to be cash on delivery. Okay, we never had that problem for us. In our case, it used to be only 10% because we are very hardcore about cash on delivery because the rejection rate is very high, right? But these guys were much more revenue driven, while we are trying to be more EBITDA driven. So in the last 2 months, that has changed because people do not want to exchange cash. Right. So, so suddenly digital platform for exchanging, for paying online by credit card has gone up significantly. What he says is it has just become ultra. So now almost 20 to 80% of the digital transactions are done by credit card or by bank transfers. Okay. And now what happens is if something stays on for some time, it becomes a habit. Okay.
Yeah, right.
If this thing progresses, that will be a big boon for digital health purchases as well in India. Okay, so we are very much looking forward to it.
Mhm.
So overall, I'll say that bad thing to say, but it's a boon for Indian healthcare industry. It's a boon for medical devices in India, and we have a humongous opportunity where we can step up and become one of the largest exporter to the world.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sanjay, on that positive note. It was very motivating to hear that largest exporter and importer, like we can surpass China any day, right?
Sure.
Sure. So moving on, Mukesh, now I believe that you have worked extensively in building chatbots and, really innovating and taking this as an opportunity to not only build deep technology products, right? Be it a chatbot for COVID-19 support. So how do you really see this? How exactly the COVID-19 has served as an opportunity for you to innovate, or you see that, okay, post COVID-19, now the ecosystem, the healthcare and, the healthcare providers are opening up in terms of acceptance of these digital products. So what do you really think about that, Mukesh? So if you can just share your thoughts around that.
Yeah, before I'll come to the product, I think the biggest changes are happening in the mindset.
Okay.
Before COVID-19, current
Mm-hmm.
ongoing COVID-19 and post COVID-19.
Yes,
Like
right.
all of us, we have grown up with learning that BC, before
Mm-hmm.
crisis, right?
Right.
So now
Yeah.
BC is now stand for before Corona,
Yeah,
after
right.
AD is after Corona, and of course in
Okay.
between during the Corona. So
Right.
because
So we are in during Corona phase right now.
yeah, so going forward, everything you are going to compare in these three phases, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So coming back to about digital platforms, yes, AI has a widespread scope, but particularly
Mm-hmm.
when this COVID-19 started, then we
Yeah.
thought this is the right opportunity to have little more focus on the healthcare segment. We have been
Mm-hmm.
doing, but we have further improved the focus. One of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest challenges of COVID-19 was getting the exact information. Like so many
Okay.
informations are there, datas are there, anything like how many death is been reported in particular city or country, what is the things need to be taken care during the COVID-19 period. If you are a patient, so what are the isolation center and where is the testing center, all these things. So based on that, what we have developed a smart chatbot based on AI. And if time is permitted, I can share the screen. And in fact, we have deployed on the Voice of Healthcare web page. So just a second, I'll just show you that how this is important, because getting a accurate and authentic information is also one of the biggest challenge to current phase, because you are getting
Yeah.
so many information from different source, and we have seen in the TV channels our migrant or anybody are suffering because of this false or information. So I'll just come share my screen and just give
Okay.
you the brief demo, maybe just for 2 minutes, okay, how these things
Okay.
are working there. Just a
Yeah.
second. So can a host can just allow me to for screen sharing? VOH team can just,
You
I
can
think,
just go down and there is a share screen. If you click on more, there is a share screen option that's there.
I have
Big-
clicked that one, but I think control is with the VOH, so host, so they need to allow. Right now it's a disable.
Uh-huh. Okay. Any which ways we can, maybe you can discuss and tell us about the tool that you have developed on call. If in the meantime, the team will work on kind of providing you the access. Will that be okay?
I think he has moved out for a bit. He perhaps got disconnected.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, let's carry on with the discussion. So we were actually discussing about how the ecosystem will actually transform. So I would like to ask you, Dr. Venkat, now if you've been running a hospital, and you've been a hardcore clinician, how I may call it. And how do you think the dynamics of your OPD, dynamics of your OTs, and how it is really going to change after COVID? What are your expectations, and what are your future vision that you see that COVID crisis or the COVID situation has given? So,
yeah, so I personally feel that the COVID situation, at least in terms of the infection control, the hygiene, etc., is here to stay a few months, if not a few years. So that has significantly changed the way our hospital practices. So infection control, although it was very strict previously, it has now become stricter. So instead of being 100%, it's now 125%, say.
all right.
Patients are all screened for as a questionnaire before they enter the hospital. Then they are asked to sanitize their hands, ensure that they have masks, etc. So I think that situation will carry on for the next few months, if not a few years.
All right.
The good thing about this is that patients' awareness about hygiene, the need to wash their hands, the need to sanitize them, their hands, and keep the surroundings clean, that has significantly improved in our country. So that's a very good thing that has happened. Regarding the business itself, COVID situation, as I said just a while ago, the business of healthcare has been significantly affected because patients are not going to the hospital. They're trying to, avoid going to the hospital as much as they can. It's just about beginning now. So we started our full-fledged OPD just a few days back.
Okay.
The awareness about the risk of transmission or risk of acquiring an infection is still very, very high, and they are quite scared. So it's very important that we have to reassure them, not to panic them. So we have to make them understand that this is a virus which is causing XYZ symptoms due to transmission, either through fomites or either through coughing, droplets, etc. So education is very important, in which case digital healthcare has provided significant amount of information. So we have Twitter, Facebook, whatnot, to inform the public about the way the infection is being transmitted and the need for hygiene and other precautions for all of us.
Okay. So, Dr. Venkat, I would really look forward if you can really
Zone
shed some
hospitals.
light on how do you really think the adoption of digital health or digital healthcare or telemedicine or the acceptance after the COVID crisis and after the COVID pandemic is gone.
So
how do you really think about that?
I was just coming to that. So once the COVID situation is, let's say, under control, patients will still prefer to see the doctor face to face if possible. But there will be also a group of patients who will say that if I can have the same clinical care online without me to travel 5 miles or 10 miles to a doctor, risking infection on the way, even if they are not thinking about infection within the hospital, which is highly under control, but they can't control the environment that they are traveling in. So in that sense, the telemedicine part take-up will be really high. So it's probably going to go up 100-200% from what it was pre-COVID. At the same time, what I feel is if you provide good service to any patient, like in any business, no matter if you want to see the patient face to face or if you want to do online consultation entirely on remote working, you will still have your business running up and well. So it's very important that we all have to understand the situation, make our patients feel very comfortable in the situation, give them proper knowledge, awareness, and basically give them good service. If you do that, I think the service will continue for a long time. Just one more point which I want to add is, the government previously has been very reluctant to push telemedicine part ahead. But I was very happy to see, there was no option to the government at all, but even the Supreme Court came out with guidelines regarding consultations online, and it provided quite clear, detailed review. So that is good. And more importantly, patients' take-up of telemedicine and acceptance has risen quite dramatically. But as I said, still a long way to go. especially in the poor community, in the slum areas, in the rural community, in the very, very remotest areas. That is where our healthcare needs to be going in. High quality healthcare has to be going in into these remote areas, and that is only possible with technology that we have. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Venkat. I think Mukesh is back. Mukesh, so continuing forward with the discussion that we had, I think we lost you in between. So you were sharing with us how you have built a COVID-19 chatbot. So you can take the discussion from here.
Correct. Just
Yeah,
sharing this. You can able to see this now?
Yes, we can see that.
So we have the chatbot here. It's called COVID-19 Assistant, right? So the moment you click, so you have disclaimer and all these terms and conditions. The moment we say accept, it is on voice on a healthcare website. Then you have, it will come series of information like what is COVID, what is coronavirus, symptom of COVID-19, and all this information is data taken from MOH, Ministry of Health, and WHO. So just example about treatment of COVID-19. Just click this treatment of COVID-19. So you are getting all this information, and here we have the source also. Like it is, this information is coming from WHO and other things. There would be some, like if you wanted to know about hand wash, so what are the recommended hand wash? So the moment I just write hand wash, so again, this information about hand wash, again, source is also mentioned here from where we have getting this there. So WHO recommendation of how to hand wash, all the details are available here. Similarly, like if you wanted to check what are the approved center of treatment, so anything you can type, you can get it there. So this is just one of the examples. So we have India version that is based on Ministry of Health and WHO. We have European version, basically for the UK, it is like NHS. And we have US version also. We have few installation in the US that is based on the CDC. And here you can get the day-to-day information, like how many days and all the information you can get it there. Because lack of time, I'm not going in the details. So getting accurate information, we say stay informed, stay safe. So that will give you 100% authentic information. Otherwise, you need to go on the new channel and different sources. So this is one of the things. So I'll just close this one. And we have recently we are in the process of developing. In fact, we have already submitted the protocol for wearable device for the COVID-19 affected patient. Okay. So far, I think Government of India has come up with the Arogya Setu. Arogya Setu is more about management of the crowd, like who are the nearby your COVID-19 patient.
Yeah.
But India, you know that you have facing the challenge if you put the COVID-19 patient in the hospital and quarantine place, but they are fluing, they are not been there. So if you can wear this device, you able to know that they are moving beyond this quarantine place. So anything they will try, you will have get alert and other things. So that has also developed. So this is just regarding about our companies and the product. How we are contributing in COVID-19. And of course, Dr. Venkat has day-to-day now experiencing more and more about digital healthcare. And I'm sure telemedicine is one of the part, a smart chat bot, particularly question answers, any kind of information that is also part of digital healthcare. Coming patient in the hospital, taking their, I think, a smart way of appointment, online appointment system. So many different digital platforms are available these days, and acceptance are going even higher. Next big thing, I think Dr. Venkat would be agree, and even Sanjay would be agree. The biggest things is now going to about EHR, electronic health record. So if you can have authentic EHR protected with the blockchain, I think it would be much easier for the physician and surgeon to give the consultancy based on the authentic data. So that is also AI blockchain are there helping on that segment also.
Yes. Definitely, Mukesh, you have really kind of shown us the way forward and how we can really utilize all blockchain, all the latest technology, artificial intelligence, use of chatbots and everything. And I believe COVID-19 has set the pace definitely for the uptake of these digital tools and, kind of opening up the system in terms of acceptance and in terms of, not only acceptance, I would say, but in terms of really rationalizing these digital technologies and kind of opening up and trying them out. So on this, I would like if, Sanjay could, in terms of devices, if we have to talk about, how do you think what next? Like, okay, pandemic is over. How it is really going to change your device industry, if I could say? Sanjay, you are on mute. You have to unmute here. Yeah.
I'm working from home, so I have a mute problem. Mukesh, I think that was really good work. I think we should, I would surely like to connect with you offline and know much more about it. So thanks a lot for bringing it out. When it comes to medical devices, okay, so I'll try to little bit map the history. Okay, we started quite some time ago, like almost 8-9 years ago, focusing much more on B2B e-commerce. Okay, and then we also moved to offline. So when we talk about digital health, okay, especially in the medical device distribution space, okay, so digital health enables the transaction, right? Typically, when we look at transaction, we only think it's online purchase. I would say that's just a small part of the complete digital health, right? Now we have big guys like 1mgs and the PharmEasy's and Amazon doing lots of digital health medical device distribution, mostly in retail space. They enable complete transaction. Okay. The second part of the digital health is part transaction, right? So as a customer, what you need is first you need to decide what product you are purchasing. Okay, if I go back to the normal offline world, then the customer sends a PO. Okay, once the PO is accepted, the payment terms are accepted, then the supplier supplies with the product and the payments come afterwards. Okay, now bringing it all to the complete chain to the healthcare domain, digital health domain, one of the big things is missing in the entire landscape, which is enabling of the financial transaction when it comes to payments after 1 month or 2 months, right? Majority of the financial transaction happening right now has a limit where the payment has to be made first, right? And then you get the goods afterwards. But if you look at the B2B, things don't work that way, right? Typically, even Dr. Venkat would say that when hospital purchases something, his purchase guy ensures that they get the payment after they make the payments after 2 months, 3 months, or whatever long they can stretch, right? So now there are two choices when we look from the digital side. Okay, there is a margin structure for any company like us, right? And which we are ready to play with. And there's a payment cost, there's an inventory cost. So we try to merge these, push up and down these multiple parameters, and also payment risk. Okay, and based on that, we take a decision on what we should be, how we should be supplying.
Right.
Now, if and I see that I've been talking to some of the finance guys, I see that in the future we'll have some financial solution on it. Okay,
right.
Where, for example, hospitals or distributors, whoever they are, buyers, they would have much more. They can do future financial transactions. Okay, what we care much more about is whether my transaction is safe. if I
Mm-hmm.
send the product to company A, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I ensured that I'm going to get the money back? Okay,
Yeah.
agreed upon time frame. Okay, and that's a
Right.
big missing gap, and that's a
Right.
huge disabler in this space,
Right.
especially when it comes to B2B. So I would say that some work on that side, and
Right.
looks like 6 to 9 months or 1 year away would surely help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
making the digital distribution much better. Okay, on second
Mm-hmm.
side, on the product side, like one of the things which Dr. Venkat talked about is the quality,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
What we get. Okay,
Yeah.
so and you also talked about communication, information on the product. Now,
Right.
there's a very fine line between information and misinformation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Correct. Yeah.
Mukesh did an amazing job of how to bring out the information from the direct source, right? WHO,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so how now, given the current circumstances and going forward for next 6 months, there will be many products coming out in the market. Every day I come to know about new medical product, like some particular UV light thing, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
how are they
Right.
tested? What kind of certifications they have? Okay,
Yeah.
we need to somehow get those much more structured. Okay, so
Yes. Right.
end customers doesn't suffer.
Right.
So once we, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and also, Sanjay, when we talk about really, Atmanirbhar Bharat, when we really talk about building, all these devices in-house, and how do we really ensure that the quality is being maintained and the functionality of the systems is intact, and we have those proper manuals as per the international guidance and guidelines. How do you think we can achieve this?
I think that's a really important question which you just asked.
Yeah.
And we have a particular tendency where we keep saying that, hey, government is not doing that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's a time when we private players, we come together. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we have significant guys in India are very talented, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a significant number of people who are extremely good in R&D, right? But
Right.
somehow that opportunity had not come up. So
Correct.
what we need to do is we need to come under an umbrella, okay?
Right.
And like associations like Voice of Healthcare
Mm-hmm.
and many others. Okay, we can all work together. Okay, form the quality processes. We need to also take the help from educational institutes. I know for example, ISC, IITs, they are doing some very good product development. Okay,
Correct.
and we as the guys from industry, we need to help them in ensuring that the right quality certifications are taken in India. Also, lately, I've seen that there are even some large companies from outside have more interest in India on the quality certification side. So we can take help so that our products, which might be already very, very good, okay, to be certified.
Right. Correct. Right. Yes, Sanjay, that makes a lot of sense. I think you have really elaborated enough on what is the need and how exactly we can set the pace for really building the products in-house. So let's kind of move towards the end of this conversation. So I will like to ask you, Dr. Venkat, what exactly are, if I have to say one prime or two takeaways for you have to talk about like your healthcare domain or hospital domains or clinical practice, what would be those 2 cents that you would like to finally share that COVID has really taught us or the lessons that we have learned? So yeah, Dr. Venkat.
Yeah, so digital healthcare, as I said, has significantly transformed the way we work, the way patients see healthcare in general. At the same time, we also have to very importantly remember that there are now new problems to consider. Things like privacy, which nobody was talking about before January. Now, every app, which I believe there are about 100 telemedicine apps coming up or already have come up in the market. How much of data privacy are they taking it seriously? Is the government having any stipulated regulations on privacy, or are the app companies able to sell the data to, say, insurance guys or somebody else? So this is a very serious concern. that needs to be addressed by the government. That is one thing. Second thing is the cost for healthcare system in digital healthcare, at least in the initial phase, will very, very much rise. So
Right.
cost of implementing EHR, there's a
Yeah.
cost for it.
Yeah,
Cost
right.
of implementing insurance company will charge a premium. Many companies are not offering COVID policies in their base plan, so you have to pay extra to cover for COVID. So for example, these are the things which build up the costs, and at the end of the day, hospitals also have to make some profit. Healthcare
Right.
is a very difficult business to run, but
right.
everybody has to make profit, but it is not seen favorably by the government or from the patient side. So that perspective has to change, and maybe if we improve on the quality or the service that we deliver, that will hopefully change the next few years. So this cost of healthcare has to be a delicate balance, which we have to really consider moving forward through the digital healthcare setup.
Absolutely, absolutely. You said it right, Dr. Venkat. Now, Sanjay, what would be your key takeaways? What COVID crisis has taught you, and how exactly are now you going back to work, and how are you really going to transform the healthcare now? So, your 2 cents about it.
Sure. What in the digital health, I think when it comes to medical device distribution, one advantage already was that it allows price discovery. Okay, with what COVID taught us is that apart from price discovery, right information, okay, is very, very important, right? So we're coming to distribution side, we need to focus on price discovery for the customers as well as right information. And if we do it right, it will be very, very good for our country. That's my quick take.
One second. Okay, so now over to you, Mukesh. What do you think? How things are going to change? How the world is going to change? And now the adoption of artificial intelligence and big data tools. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, COVID-19 has broken the myth that you have the best of the healthcare and you have all the resources, you are safe. But it is not true, right? You have seen the developed countries like USA and entire European countries, they are suffering. They have one of the best healthcare, they have resources. So the most important thing is like health is wealth. That is the center stage for now going forward. And health for all. These things is also quite important, irrespective whether you are rich or you are poor, you require the health. So if you make it the basic minimum thing, I think you need to ensure the healthcare across the country and digital way to enhance the facility. That is the only way you can reach. And second point, I would like to emphasize that necessity is mother of all invention. So we have no choice. First, we need to improve our own immune system. So we have AJs, we know about the knowledge about Ayush medicine and other things. So that is definitely side by side, it has to go. So you can improve your immune system and advance healthcare with digital. Initially, it is a cost, but over a period of time, if you see that it is a very, very cost effective.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
these two things is takeaway for this webinar.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mukesh. Thank you. So I think we are absolutely on schedule, on time for this webinar. I believe so. It's at the end, I would like to give my 2 cents about this. I think we've been like people working in digital health space have been trying too hard for almost so many years to really get into the industry, get the knack of those patients, of the clinicians who can really finally adopt digital healthcare tools. And I believe this pandemic has set the perfect catalyst for the adoption and uptake of digital healthcare tools. And I think we, as a community, as healthcare providers, at any kind of spectrum that we represent in healthcare, I think it is pivotal that we all of us work together hand in hand in terms of technology, with clinicians, with other stakeholders as well. So I think I would like to close, and I would really like to thank all the panelists for really kind of taking their time out and really sharing their insights, what the crisis situation has taught them, and also all the attendees that we have here today. In terms of Voice of Healthcare, I see there are like a few questions. Most of them we have like answered online during the discussion, and few of them we will be kind of handling them on the other mediums like LinkedIn and Facebook to Voice of Healthcare page. And I would like to request all of you, all the panelists and attendees, to keep on following Voice of Healthcare. And we are really building a COVID response webinar series. And I think at last I would just close by saying that we should be hopeful of the future that we hold in front of us, and also be humble at the same time. So yeah.
I just want to quickly say one word before we finish. Sorry, I know you've already closed, but I want to just say that, we all as leaders in healthcare could come together, clinicians, the government, the regulators, the device manufacturer, the pharmacy, insurance companies, and Voice of Healthcare is a perfect platform. And I really appreciate the fact that they are all trying to get this across, encouraging these kind of debates and making the voice of healthcare being heard throughout the country. And I think future is very bright with people like you. So thank you, Neha, for all the efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Venkat. Thank you, everyone. So all the best, and enjoy your evening, everyone, and stay safe, stay indoors, don't go out, and be happy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.